I'm here on the job site with Dale, who's a framing contractor.
Hey, good morning.
Dale traded up to Geico Commercial Auto Insurance for all his business vehicles. We're here where he needs us most.
Yep, they sure are.
We make it easy for him to save on all his insurance needs, all in one place, with coverage that fits his business and bottom line. Oh, I shouldn't have looked down.
It's all right.
We're so far up here.
Look at me. Take a deep breath.
No, I'm good. So good.
Get a commercial auto insurance quote today at geico.com and see how much you could save. It feels good to Geico.
November 6, 2000, La Jolla, California. A young toxicologist picks up the phone and dials 911. 24-year-old Kristin Rossum tells the operator her husband is not breathing. When first responders arrived, they didn't walk into a typical death scene. Greg was sprawled across the floor, his body carefully arranged, his skin dusted with rose petals, like a frame lifted straight from an Oscar-winning film. To the outside world, it looked like a poetic suicide, a heartbroken husband who could not bear the collapse of his marriage. But behind those petals was a different story, one of a brilliant scientist, a secret meth binge, and a forbidden affair. In the months that followed, investigators would peel back each layer of the carefully staged scene and ask one single question. Was this a desperate act of self-destruction or a meticulously planned murder? This is the story of Greg de Villers and his wife, Kristin Rossum, the American Beauty. Hey y'all, I'm Chris Calvert.
And I'm her husband, Rob Podorf. Welcome to Hitch to Homicide.
For better or worse.
Till death do us part.
Welcome back, everybody.
Yes, welcome. And for our friends over there in Madagascar.
Yes.
Tongo Soa.
Madagascar.
Yep.
Someplace I'll never get to go, but it sounds really cool.
Yeah, it does.
Wherever you're listening, be sure to like, rate, and review Hitch to Homicide and tell your friends all about us. Go out there and share because what, honey?
Sharing is caring.
And caring is love.
It is.
If you want true crime with us all the time, please go to Facebook and join our closed group, the In-Laws and Outlaws. Just go to Facebook, type in H2H, In-Laws and Outlaws, answer a couple questions. You are in. Go join. We love those people. They are just absolutely the best.
They are.
You can find us on Instagram at Hitch to Homicide or on X at H2H_podcast. Sorry, that got caught in my throat. And you can also now go buy Rob some coffee. We have a Buy Me a Coffee link if you want to send him some coffee. He's out there drinking it right now, I suppose, although I didn't catch a gander at him before I walked in here to sit down and start talking. You can
I can see her, but she can't see me.
Yeah. You can also send us a message. There's a link at the bottom of the show notes where it says send Chris and Rob a text or a message. We love getting those. I love reading through them. Yep. Sometimes I actually read them to Rob.
She does.
Well, as a writer, honey, I'm always trying to construct the perfect murder, right?
Right.
I write thrillers and suspense.
Yeah.
And I'm always looking to have the perfect crime where somebody screws up just enough to get caught, but not so much that readers can figure it out right from the beginning.
Right.
And this case has the makings of the perfect crime.
Okay.
But life's not perfect, even for the people who think they can outsmart everybody else.
They're not the smartest people in the room.
Not the smartest people in the room. Before we get started, let me thank some sources: CBS News, the LA Times, the San Diego Union Tribune, Murderpedia, KPBS, the Mind of Madness podcast, and many, many others. This is a really interesting case. It is about 25, 26 years old, but I love it so much because she thinks she's really smart.
All right. Well, you ready?
I am.
Let's do it.
Kristin Rossum was born on October 25th, 1976 in Southern California to Ralph and Constance, her parents, who are really accomplished. He's a professor of constitutional law at Claremont McKenna College. I just met some girls a couple weeks ago who went to Claremont. And the director of the Rose Institute of State and Local Government on that campus.
Okay.
Ralph, her dad, he's one of the advisors to President Reagan.
Oh,
He
wow.
was a part of the Reagan Justice Administration.
Okay.
And Kristin's dad is also an expert in juvenile justice. And her mother, Constance, is a former high-powered ad executive who is now an associate professor of marketing and management at Azusa Pacific University. That's a private Christian school. She also hosted this weekly television show on marketing and media. So just a couple of dummies. Her parents are just not... They're just sitting at home in their underwear, eating potato chips and watching Jerry Springer.
And drinking coffee.
Not at all. They are very, very accomplished.
Okay.
Nothing wrong with sitting at home in your underwear watching Jerry Springer with potato chips.
Yeah.
I have done it, just not in my underwear before, but I have watched Jerry Springer. It gives me anxiety, so I have to turn it off. And I realize it's probably not even on anymore. It's probably syndicated since he's gone.
Yeah.
Kristin is raised in Claremont, which is a small town outside of Los Angeles. She was a child model, but not necessarily a model child. But she was a child model. She's very pretty.
Okay.
She studied dance. She's striking. And from the outside, her childhood looks almost classically perfect. It's very privileged. Ballet lessons, good schools, and the expectation that she's going to excel. And in family photographs and neighbor recollections, the image is of a bright blonde girl who is destined for something extremely impressive, just like her parents.
Okay.
She has blonde hair, hazel eyes, big eyes, and her photos as a little girl, they're really adorable. She's just adorable. But as she moved into adolescence, the pressure to become accomplished and polished intensified. I would have to think it's hard to have parents who are that accomplished and to have everyone look at you thinking you have to do better than your parents.
Right.
At school, she was smart and driven, but she was also quietly learning how to compartmentalize, showing one version of herself to parents and teachers, and another to her peers, and still another to the boys she dated. And this tendency to split her life into these sealed compartments would become a hallmark of her adult behavior. I'm not going to say that's called foreshadowing.
Okay.
In high school, Kristin's world sort of cracked under the weight of her own self-expectations and her insecurities. She began using methamphetamine, a choice that stood in violent contrast to the disciplined ballerina and professor's daughter she presented to the world. The drug promised focus, euphoria, and weight loss. All things that ballerinas do look for. I hate to say it, but there's so many ballerinas who just don't eat. They just smoke cigarettes, and that's it.
Yep.
But it all fed into a deepening dependency on secrecy and lies. And her addiction escalated to the point that she attempted suicide during her teen years, which was an act her family didn't initially connect to her drug use. Now, I also read that she sustained a stress fracture at some point, and that was the reason why she started using drugs. I think that's when she was 16. And sometimes stress fractures for dancers, they'll take a year to heal.
Yeah.
It's a long time for a dancer to be out. And I also read that she started using alcohol and weed to sort of get out of her depression or whatever, and then that sort of escalated into methamphetamines.
It sounds like she just spiraled.
She is spiraling, and her very accomplished parents don't know what to do with their out-of-control daughter. But Kristin eventually does go to college. She enrolls in the University of the Redlands, and that's east of San Bernardino in L.A. And she moved into the dorms and everything, but she drops out due to her drug use. She just can't keep it together. She had problems at school. She was fighting with her friends. Then she was fighting with her parents. And by the time she's in college, Kristin's life is a cycle of relapse and remorse. She could function well enough to project being normal, but her internal mind and landscape was dominated by meth and the fear of being discovered using meth. And this dual existence, this ambitious, high-achieving student on one side and desperate addict on the other, set the stage for the relationship that's going to define her life. And if you have struggled with drugs, I'm sure you understand this, that you've got one side of your life and that's where you are, and then you've got the other side of your life that's controlled basically by the devil. You're trying to control one side of your life and he's trying to control the other.
Yeah.
That's at least the way I've heard it explained to me by somebody who was a former addict. And if you believe all of the sometimes sketchy information, again, Kristin tries to commit suicide, and her parents didn't really, again, say that was connected to her drug use. They just thought it was a cry for attention because apparently she cut her wrists, but she never really put herself in danger in any way. I'm just here to tell you, anybody who makes any sort of suicide attempt, it is a cry for attention. It's a cry for help. Don't ever just let that go.
Yeah.
But Kristin's got issues. Like, she's got more issues than Vogue. I had to get it in there, right? I had to say something.
Hello.
But by the time December 1994 rolls around and Kristin's 18, she has run away from her parents' home. But she hasn't gone too far because it's 15 miles from downtown San Diego to the Mexican border in Tijuana. You can walk there, actually. And in December of 1994, Kristin went to Tijuana to score her drug of choice, meth. She just walked across that bridge. Now, hang on to that.
Okay.
Meet Greg de Villers. Greg was born in Illinois, and he's the oldest of French-born parents Marie Tremollet de Villers. His father is a plastic surgeon and liposuction expert. But his parents divorced, and his father, who used to practice medicine in Thousand Oaks, California, now lives in Monaco. Sounds horrible.
Rough life.
Sounds just horrible. And I hope I'm saying everybody's French name correctly. Somebody's going to email me if I didn't, but I did look it up.
Okay.
Greg's mom, however, lives in Ventura County.
Okay.
His parents valued hard work, loyalty, and family responsibility, and there are very few detailed accounts of Greg's childhood, but from everything that is said about him, from his family and friends, it consistently paints this picture of him as this conscientious, gentle, deeply committed guy to the people he loves. As a young adult, Greg's personality tended toward taking care of people. Friends and relatives described him as someone who would quietly step into any problem whatsoever. He was the kind of man who walked other people home, who stayed late to help, who took on emotional burdens that didn't strictly belong to him. And when he moved into adulthood, he leaned toward stability.
Sounds like he just had a big heart.
He's a really, really good guy. He's the guy you want to take home to your mother, and your father's going to say, he's got something, he's got that special something. I know I can count on him to take care of my daughter. He's always going to take care of my daughter.
He gets a thumbs up.
He gets a thumbs up. He's working on a biology degree in college, and by his mid-20s, he's working in biotech, tracking toward a responsible middle-class life that favored security over flash, and eventually, he's going to become a business manager at a place called Orbigen Biotech. It's a biotech company in Mira Mesa, California.
Okay.
Now, it's December 1994, and Greg de Villers is 21, and he is in Tijuana with his two brothers, Jerome and Bertrand. And they're in Tijuana to have a little bit of fun. But Greg's not a party animal by any means. He's a really good student. He's an all-around good guy. He didn't do drugs. He didn't really even take Advil for a headache. But he's very reliable. So he's kind of the guy who's watching out for everybody else who's partying, right?
He's the designated driver.
He's the designated everything. Now, in books and screenplays, when you want two romantic characters to meet, you write what's called a meet cute. It's like this little charming way that two characters first encounter each other, and it's something that will lead to a romantic relationship. So Kristin and Greg literally bump into each other like a real meet cute. They run into each other physically on the pedestrian bridge to Tijuana, Mexico. And except for the fact that she's in Tijuana to score some drugs,
Yeah, I was about ready to say.
they're off to a beautiful beginning. It's very romantic. I was just there to score some meth, and I felt like I met the man of my dreams. Kristin's life is, by her own account, unraveling under the weight of her methamphetamine addiction. But this is a crossing point. It's sort of a crossroads between countries, between legality and shadow economies, between who she had been and who she actually might become. Because for Kristin, meeting Greg felt like the possibility of being rescued. But these are a couple of people from really well-to-do families, and they fall head over heels for each other right there. He takes her with him from the Tijuana Bridge. That's the truth.
Wow.
And honestly, from that moment forward, they really aren't apart that much. Greg has fallen instantly in love with her, and he wants to take care of her. And Kristin went home with Greg that night and effectively never leaves. And Greg quickly steps into this very familiar role of savior. He pushed her to detox from meth. He monitored her recovery and believed that loving her and giving her structure and being vigilant would keep her clean. And for a time, it seemed to work. Kristin's life stabilized. Her relationship with Greg became the axis around which her sobriety and her future plans all revolved. Her world revolved around Greg. So he takes her back to San Diego with him, and he moves her into the apartment that he shares with his brother, Jerome. And with Greg's help, she gets clean. She goes back to school at San Diego State to pursue a degree in biochemistry. And as their bond deepens, Greg becomes not just a boyfriend, but a guardian of Kristin's second chance. He helped her maintain distance from her drug-using past and urged her to build something ambitious out of her intelligence and her scientific aptitude. I mean, he's a biologist. He sees how smart she is.
Sure.
So he's just trying to keep her from throwing her life away.
Right.
And in Greg's mind, he wasn't just in love with Kristin, he was invested in her redemption. So he's really kind of made it his life's work to take care of this woman that he's fallen in love with.
Right.
And of course, if he's living with Greg, he's also living with Greg's roommate, his brother Jerome. And Jerome, he doesn't love Kristin like his brother does. And things start to go missing around the apartment. Jerome can't find checks made out to him. He can't find some family jewelry. And Kristin's like, dude, I haven't seen your stuff, and I have no idea what you're talking about. But then when Kristin's not around, Jerome goes sneaking through and pilfering through Kristin's things, and he gets into her purse and finds the missing checks that were made out to him.
Wow.
So Jerome doesn't trust her. He just goes looking, and she's been stealing to support her drug habit and hiding it. And apparently Jerome has had enough, and he moves out of the apartment that he shares with his brother, and now Kristin. Greg, however, is determined more than ever to get Kristin clean. And after this relapse, he does. And his brothers say that she was, quote, the obsession of his life, end quote.
So were they, I mean, it basically sounds like he was kind of an enabler or of sorts.
I don't know that he's an enabler as much as he is a cheerleader.
Okay.
He loves her. He's going to go the distance. He's going to do whatever it takes
Right.
to turn her life around and keep her clean. He's really more her savior than he is her enabler.
But as the old saying goes, if you don't want to be rescued, you're not going to.
This is true.
Yeah.
But she does get clean again, and their lives become deeply entwined. And by this point, Kristin seems like she's going to come out of all of this smelling like a rose. She's back in school. She's a really smart cookie, and her smarts and her background in biology leads her to a job in toxicology.
Yeah.
These two get engaged, but Kristin's parents want them to wait to get married. So Greg goes to her mom and dad and says, I want to marry Kristin. And her parents are like, she's in school and lots has been going on, so why don't you just wait a little bit? And they do get engaged, but they do put the wedding off. But then finally on June 5th, 1999, that's 5 years after their little meet cute on the Tijuana Bridge, they tie the knot. Now, I just want to say, Greg is just as pretty as Kristin is. He's adorable. He's a really good-looking guy. So they're both very beautiful people from very wonderful families, and they're both very smart with bright futures. What could go wrong?
Yeah, what could go wrong?
Kristin eventually graduates Phi Beta Kappa and summa cum laude from San Diego State. I actually watched a little piece of their wedding video online, and he is so in love with her. He can't wait to spend the rest of his life with her. He's like, she's the most wonderful person I've ever met. She's just the best. He's all about Kristin.
Right.
These two settle in La Jolla at a UC San Diego apartment, even though neither of them are enrolled there anymore, but that's where the apartment is. And she has taken an internship with the San Diego County Medical Examiner's Office during school. And when she graduates, she gets a full-time job there as a junior toxicologist. That's called foreshadowing. I was going to get it in there.
Thank you.
Greg is moving up at this Obigen biotech company. He's a really hard worker. He's that guy. He never misses a day. He's always on time. He always does his work. He's a forward thinker. He's the perfect employee. And he's always there. Like, he would have to be on his deathbed for him to stay at home.
Right.
He's just not going to stay at home. He's
Right.
going to go to work.
Right.
And Kristin and Greg have this perfect little life. They're these newlyweds. They're totally in love. They're beautiful people. And everything's great for a while.
If you felt stuck trying to lose weight, you're not alone. Enter Weight Loss by Hers. It's designed to support you in reaching your goals. And Hers now offers access to an affordable range of FDA-approved GLP-1 medications, including the Wegovy pill and the Wegovy pen. With Wegovy through Hers, lose up to 20% or more of your body weight when combined with diet and exercise. It helps you regulate your appetite, eat less, and keep weight off. Plus, Wegovy is the first ever GLP-1 pill for weight loss, so there are no needles needed. Everything is 100% online through Hers. You'll connect with a licensed provider who'll determine if treatment is right for you. If prescribed, your medication is delivered right to your door. No insurance necessary. Ready to reach your goals? Visit forhers.com/believe to get personalized, affordable care that gets you. That's forhers.com/BLEAV. Forhers.com/believe. Weight Loss by Hers is not available in all 50 states. Wegovy is the registered trademark of Novo Nordisk AS. To get started and learn more, including important safety information, Wegovy clinical study information, and restrictions, visit forhers.com.
What would you do if your online store converted 36% more shoppers? You could take 36% more vacation,
Another pina colada? Yes, please.
open a new retail location with 36% more square feet,
Fantastic.
hire 36% more help.
You're hired and you're hired.
Shopify has the world's best converting checkout, up to 36% better than other e-commerce platforms. What you do with those extra sales is up to you. Switch to Shopify today at shopify.com/listen and get a $1 trial. Shopify.com/listen.
Kristin's clean break from meth is never really going to go away. She was more in remission than she was cured, and she still had the ability to compartmentalize her life. She was one person to her husband, Greg. She was another when she was jonesing for drugs. Just like I said, you know, you've got this life that's controlled by you and this other life that's controlled by drugs.
Sure.
And by the time these two were married a year, Kristin's dependence on Greg to be her rock had pretty much vanished. She acted like she didn't really need him as she had before. And Greg said that she didn't need him as she once did. And according to Kristin, because of this, Greg was clingy, and she didn't like that.
Yeah.
But of course, there's more to the story, and his name is Michael Robertson.
Mm-hmm.
In June of 2000, Kristin began a sexual relationship with her boss in the toxicology lab. And Michael had a doctorate in forensic medicine. He's an expert on date rape drugs. He's also Australian and has that really sexy Australian accent.
That's not a knife.
I was thinking more Thor.
Oh, okay. This is a knife.
I'm thinking of the Helmsworth boys.
All right. Not Crocodile Dundee.
No,
Okay.
no.
All right.
But Dr. Robinson came to the United States in 1996 to be a medical fellow and trainee in forensic toxicology at National Medical Services in Pennsylvania, and he worked his way up to become a department director, and then he moved to San Diego to work as the toxicology lab manager. And these two, he and Kristin, are really reckless with their affair. They're pretty much out in the open with the staff in the office. And it's kind of reckless on every front. It's reckless ethically, professionally, emotionally, because it threatens her job, her marriage, her very fragile sobriety. But it offered the intense, secretive urge of emotion and danger that Kristin seemed to be drawn to. And the woman who once chose meth for its intensity was now kind of choosing another kind of intoxication, an affair with a married supervisor who controlled her professional future and her access to drugs.
Wow.
He was her new drug for now.
Yeah.
And Kristin tells Greg about the affair. This according to her. And his reaction was to be furious and crushed.
Yeah.
And he issued an ultimatum. He called Michael Robertson at home and demanded that the affair end. But it didn't end. It continued for months while Kristin is playing wife in her marriage with Greg and lover in her affair with Michael.
Yeah, talk about somebody that's truly ungrateful.
Yeah, after all he's done for her.
Yeah.
And by October of 2000, Kristin is doing meth once again. And now her life is a three-way collision between her husband, her lover, and her drug addiction. So here's somebody who has a past drug addiction working in the toxicology department.
Jeez.
Apparently, Greg knew what was up. He could see the signs of her using again, and the more he tried to help her, the more she pushed him away. Maybe that's what she meant by the fact that he was clingy. In early November 2000, Kristin and Greg have a huge fight because Greg catches Kristin reading an old love letter from none other than Dr. Michael, Dr. Dreamy, Dr. Thor.
Wow.
The dude from Australia.
Right.
And this showed Greg that the affair was not over, but going strong. And according to Kristin, there was a struggle, and they wrestled to the floor. Sounds like he just wanted that letter out of her hand.
Yeah.
And this was when Greg said to Kristin, "You either quit your job and end the affair, or I'm going to expose your drug use and your affair with your boss to the supervisors at the medical examiner's office. And that's going to end your career. That's going to end his career.
Wow.
And that's going to keep you from ever having another job in toxicology because you're a drug addict."
Wow.
So he drops the big hammer, right?
The ultimatum.
Yes.
Yeah.
November 6th, 2000, around 9:15 p.m., 24-year-old Kristin calls 911 and says, "My husband is not breathing. He's cold." She tells the 911 operator he's taken drugs to try to kill himself. And I've listened to this 911 call. She's kind of, yippy. She's sort of doing that thing,
Yeah.
She's frantic. She's being told by the first responder on the other end to perform CPR on Greg.
Does it sound fake?
Well, I mean, in retrospect, it does.
Yeah.
I don't know if it would at the time.
Sure.
But when paramedics arrive, they find Kristin not at her husband's side performing CPR and just completely out of sorts, but very calm. Not frantic like she was on the phone. She's actually in another room. She's not even in the bedroom. She's 20 feet away from him.
Really?
Yeah. And around the body, these EMTs, they find rose petals. And under his head, or propped up next to his head, there's a wedding photo of Greg and Kristin. So he's got these rose petals around him and a picture of the two of them on their wedding day. And on the nightstand is Kristin's journal, and it's open to where she's been writing about her feelings and how she loves Dr. Dreamy, Dr. Thor, and that she made a mistake marrying Greg. And also near the body is a crumpled love letter to Kristin. And that one is not from Greg. It's from her lover, not her husband.
Dr. Dreamy.
Dr. Dreamy. Dr. Thor.
Dr. Thor.
So they rush Greg's body to the hospital where they declare him dead on arrival. The cause of death, an apparent suicide. Robert Jones from UC San Diego is the campus police officer who's assigned to the case. I mean, I guess they are on campus. So he gets into their apartment at about 11 p.m. and he looks around the apartment. Kristin's not there. She's at the hospital with Greg at this point. And he sees all these rose petals on the floor and on the bed. And he's looking for a source container, whatever it was that Greg took to overdose, right?
Right.
An empty pill bottle or a vial if he shot himself up with something.
Sure.
There's nothing. So he stands back and he looks at the scene, and this cop says, "This looks really staged to me."
Yeah.
Now, you got to give this guy props because it's not like he's a seasoned homicide detective. This is a campus cop that's doing this, right?
Right.
So later that night, Kristin comes back to the apartment. His name is Jones. Officer Jones is still there. And she introduces this man that she's brought with her to the apartment. And she's like, "Officer Jones, this is my coworker, Dr. Michael Robertson." Michael's 30, by the way.
Okay.
He's really handsome, from Australia. So it's honestly like she was saying, "My husband killed himself today, but here to console me is my coworker, Chris Helmsworth. Thor is here with me. I'm going to cry on his shoulder," kind of thing.
The other thing I'm immediately thinking is the fact that if it's staged, which it sounds like it was, you have the crumpled love letter from Dr. Thor. You have her diary that's open that has all that stuff. I mean, none of this makes sense.
Well, that's what Officer Jones is saying, too.
Because she's incriminating herself.
Well, Kristin tells the officer that she thinks that Greg had taken pills.
Right.
And she thinks that the pills were hers, that he had taken away from her and gotten rid of a long time ago. That's what she's saying. She goes, "I think that's what he did." But he took them from her because he was always kind of monitoring her. And he took them from her and said that he'd gotten rid of them. But she thinks, that she keeps saying, that's what he took. That must have been what he took.
Right.
And then she tells the officer that she and Greg have been having marital problems. And Greg was really depressed. She tells him, Officer Jones, that Greg killed himself because he loved her so very much. And Officer Jones says, "What's up with the rose petals on the floor? What's going on here?" Yeah. And Kristin says, quote, "I think it's his way of leaving a suicide note, his dramatic gesture, an homage to my favorite movie, American Beauty," end quote.
Oh, man.
So you know how in the movie American Beauty there's all the rose petals?
Yeah.
And So here's her story. She says she came home at 8:30 that night and that Greg was asleep in the bed. She gets herself something to eat because she doesn't want to disturb him. And then she says, "I took a long bath." Now, you're going to hear later that she talks about the fact that he didn't feel well that morning, and so he didn't go into work, and she just left him in bed when she left for the day. But then she comes home at 8:30 and says she fixes herself something to eat, doesn't want to disturb him, and then she takes this long bath. And now she makes it a point to tell the officer that it was a long bath, because if she's home at 8:30 and she's not calling until 9:15 that somebody's dead, that's a 45-minute long bath. How long are you keeping the water warm? I'm not a bath person. I don't know. Somebody's going to call me or email me or text me and say, "Oh, I could take a 45-minute long bath all day long."
Yeah.
I could not. I'm in the shower, wash it out.
Yep.
Too much to do.
Yep.
Officer Jones, he goes into her bathroom after this long bath comment, and he just wants to take a look around, and he looks at the tub, and it's the kind of tub where the stopper is sort of screwed into the drain. Mm-hmm. So when you're taking a shower, it's unscrewed, but they drop pretty easily into the tub and close the tub up. So a lot of people take them out, right?
Right.
And Kristin and Greg had taken the stopper out of the tub and put it someplace else. They placed it on a shelf across the room from the bathtub, nowhere near where she had taken her long, luxurious bath.
Guess she didn't think about that.
So she may have taken it out and put it way across the room on top of the shelf. I don't know.
Okay.
But Officer Jones, just like the rose petals, he thinks it's hinky. 2 days after Greg dies, an autopsy shows that he has 2 drugs in his system, OxyContin and Klonopin. Oxy's a painkiller, we know. Klonopin is an anti-seizure medication, but it's also really good for people who have anxiety disorders, folks who have panic attacks. And these are both controlled substances. And this goes right along with Kristin's original story about how he had OD'd. And Greg's family, especially his brothers, they're not buying what she's selling.
Yeah.
Not at all.
Right.
A, they don't like Kristin. And B, Greg was the kind of guy that didn't take drugs. Even if he had a headache, again, he wouldn't take Advil.
Sure.
Ever.
Right.
If he had hay fever or a runny nose, nothing. And here's the thing, he's a biochem guy, right? Our son Luke is exactly the same way. He won't put anything in his body either that doesn't have to be there, because he's always like, Mom, your body is designed to fight it off. And Mom, you're taking all these vitamins, but you should be eating the foods that have the vitamins in them instead of just taking the vitamins. Your body absorbs it better. Yeah, I'm Gen X, man.
Yeah.
I drank out of a hose, rode without a bike helmet. I'm good, honey. I'm good.
And
okay?
also, you're only 33. Give me a break.
I appreciate all the advice from our very, very smart son.
Right.
But I'll just keep taking my vitamins, okay? That's the best I can do.
Yep.
But Greg's brothers don't think any of it fits. His brothers, Bertrand and Jerome, they go to Greg's boss, whose name is Stefan Grunwald. And Stefan didn't believe Greg was depressed at all. And his family didn't believe Greg was depressed at all. Nobody thought Greg was depressed.
Right.
In fact, Greg was planning a fishing trip with his brothers. He's making plans. Yet Kristin, his wife, is saying, oh, he was just so depressed and he killed himself because of me. And his brothers are calling BS on it. And Jerome, the brother who found his checks in Kristin's purse, he is not going to let this go. He goes out and starts investigating his brother's death himself. And he starts putting a tape recorder in his pocket, and he goes to Kristin and he starts chatting with her. He wants to find out anything. He wants to see if she's going to slip up and say anything. And he says to her, Kristin, I don't think he killed himself. And Kristin agrees. And she says that she thinks it was accidental, that maybe he had a reaction to the drugs. After all, she's a toxicologist. And then she starts crying and she says, I don't know. We won't know until the results are back. Now remember, she works for the San Diego Medical Examiner's Office.
Yeah.
Where are the results coming from?
Right.
That's where her dead husband was taken. But as far as the depression, Greg never said anything to his brothers, and these 3 are super tight. And she says, I'm sorry. I'm just so sorry. Quote, I was very unhappy, and I know this now because I've met someone who makes me happy, end quote. This is what you're saying? Her husband's not even in the ground yet, and she's talking about meeting someone who makes her happy. And of course, she's talking about Dr. Michael Robertson, but she's saying this to her brother-in-law.
Good Lord.
But there's a little twist. Guess what? Dr. Dreamy, Dr. Thor, he's married.
Yeah.
Then Kristin denies having the affair with Dr. Michael Robertson. And about this time, Officer Jones comes back in, starts putting 2 and 2 together as everything starts to unfold, and he realizes as they're untangling this cast of characters that Dr. Robertson, that's who was with Kristin on the night when Greg died. Remember, she brought him home. This is my work colleague. And he's like,
2 plus 2.
We have a possible motive.
Right.
2 days later, San Diego homicide detective Laurie Agnew gets a call. It's Jerome, Greg's brother, and he's like, it's time to get involved. I think my brother Greg was murdered by his wife. And Jerome explains all of it to Detective Agnew and says Kristin's having an affair with her boss. They did the autopsy in their lab and they tested the specimens. And can you have somebody look into it? I mean, can you say conflict of interest? This is the epitome of it, right?
Sure.
So Detective Agnew starts poking around, and what she discovers is that on the night Greg dies, Kristin goes into the morgue with Greg's body and Dr. Robertson while at the medical examiner's office. So his body's taken to the hospital, and then once he's finished there, he's DOA. They're going to have to do a tox screen on him. So he goes to the medical examiner's office where she works, and she follows him over there. And Dr. Robertson's also there at the medical examiner's office, and some of the staff that she works with, that both of them work with, they're around when this is happening. And they're being very supportive of Kristin. We're so sorry. This is so horrible, Kristin. And then all of a sudden, Kristin and Michael, they embrace and then they kiss. Like they're making out right outside the morgue where his body isn't even cold yet.
Wow.
And one of the staff said it was shocking because apparently there was some French kissing going on.
Good grief.
So Detective Agnew also discovers that Kristin made arrangements for Greg's organs to be donated, specific organ donations on the night that Greg died. So Brother Jerome calls Greg's boss and says, dude, this is what's happening, because he's a biotech guy and he's like, Kristin donated the skin and the eyes, and that made Greg's boss, Stefan Grunwald, the biochemist, say, that's suspicious. That's very suspicious.
Yeah.
I saw interviews with him. He is very German, so he might have said, das ist suspicious.
And help me, why would this be suspicious?
Well, because in an autopsy, skin will show needle marks or other types of drug use, and fluid in the eyes will indicate what substances are ingested and when, and she gave those away. Yeah. And after those two things are harvested, Kristin asks for the body to be cremated immediately.
Wow.
But the brothers put the kibosh on that. They're like, no.
Not so fast there.
They call their new friend in San Diego, homicide detective Agnew, and they say, we want an independent study. We want an independent autopsy. We want additional toxicology tests run. And there were toxicology tests run at the San Diego Medical Examiner's office, and Kristin wasn't allowed to run them. But you know who was? Her lover. He's the one who did it.
Jeez.
So they shipped these new samples to a private lab who says, yep, you're right, there was Klonopin and Oxy in his bloodstream. He had levels of those two drugs high enough to put him into a coma. But that's not what killed Greg. It should have, it could have, but it wasn't. It was fentanyl. And guess who had access to fentanyl?
Yep.
Now, it's a dangerous drug. It's a really, really dangerous drug. Yeah. And there are good uses for it. Like cancer patients will often use fentanyl patches. It's used for what's actually called breakthrough pain. People who take this, they're already taking pain medication, and it's just not enough. It's a serious drug for chronic, long-term pain. Usually people who are like in hospice.
Okay.
Just to make them comfortable.
Sure.
And just for reference, fentanyl is 100 times stronger than morphine. And Greg had enough of it in his bloodstream to kill 24 people. Now, because fentanyl is a highly controlled substance, medical examiners don't routinely make it a part of their toxicology report, right?
Right.
And who might know this? Someone who works in the medical examiner's office, a toxicologist, somebody maybe like Kristin.
And somebody that takes fentanyl.
She takes methamphetamines.
Oh, okay.
But it would have never been picked up by the medical examiner's office in San Diego because it's not a routine test. So armed with this new information, Detective Agnew orders a search warrant of the medical examiner's office. They want the records of everything, all the drugs that came and went out of the office. So when they question Dr. Michael Robertson, he comes clean, and he lets the San Diego Police Department know that he did indeed have a relationship with Kristin. But according to Detective Agnew, he's super careful about how he explains it.
I'm sure.
So they did have a close personal relationship just a month into their working relationship. but he never said it was an inappropriate one, and he didn't say it wasn't an inappropriate one. He never said it was an appropriate one either. He's just just very vague.
Yeah.
And they asked him about fentanyl, and he had any cases with it, and had he done any testing, and he's like, no. And he had no association. He hadn't had any cases with fentanyl, hadn't done any testing with it.
Okay.
Nothing. Nada. And with their search warrant, they go through the entire medical examiner's office, and in a desk, they find a crumpled envelope from the drug impound room and a crack pipe with residue.
And whose desk was this?
Well, you can guess whose desk it was. I had to look this up. How would this even be possible in a medical examiner's office? And here's why. I mean, why would they have that? Kristin had access to illegal street drugs and paraphernalia that medical examiners and investigators impounded from death scenes to help them identify the cause of death. So, for comparison's sake, these impounded items are placed in evidence envelopes, which are dropped through a slot in a locked box. So if somebody has a crack pipe in their hand and they're dead, they send the drugs and the crack pipe and the deceased person, all of it, to the medical examiner's office.
Right.
But then they take those illicit drugs and the crack pipe and all that stuff, and they put them in evidence envelopes, and they're put into a locked box so nobody can get to them, right? They put it through a slot. And when the box becomes full, someone would have to empty the box into a plastic bag and move it into the lab's balance room. I have no idea why it's called a balance room, but that's what it's called.
Okay.
And in that balance room, apparently in this particular balance room in the San Diego Medical Examiner's office, it was left open during the day. So they have this evidence in this envelope, and there's this crack pipe, and they test it for DNA. Whose DNA is on this crack pipe? And it comes back as?
Hers truly.
Kristin's DNA, and it also tests positive for meth. So she's nicked some dead person's pipe and meth, and now she's smoking it.
Good Lord.
Then they find an empty vial of fentanyl at the office. Like, they find the vial, and it's gone. It's empty. Nothing there. The two other drugs, oxy and Klonopin, well, lo and behold, they're both missing from the medical examiner's office inventory as well. And, these are the only ones taken. The only drugs that are missing from the impound are either in the dead husband or the living wife.
Right.
So there you have it.
Wow.
So who's in charge of the drug inventory logbook, you might ask?
Mm-hmm.
Kristin. Kristin's in charge. Yeah.
The fox is in the hen house.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And there's a quote from this man named Kevin Cox. He writes for the San Diego magazine, and he says, quote, "They put a known drug user in charge of the logbook and a known lover in charge of her," end quote.
What could go wrong?
So now they're like, okay, Greg didn't commit suicide, but they need evidence because they can't arrest her without it. There's tons of smoking guns, or in this case, smoking meth pipes.
Yeah.
But it's all circumstantial. But first, Kristin's fired. Kristin's fired because she lied about her past and her present use of meth and her affair with her coworker and her misuse of authority at the lab. And then they let her lover go too, Dr. Michael Robertson. He's fired as well because he knew of her drug use and he didn't report it.
Big mistake. Big.
Huge.
Kristin
is invited. I say invited. That's in quotes, air quotes.
Yeah.
She's invited for an interview with Detective Agnew 2 weeks after Greg is dead. And Detective Agnew, she's a female too, by the way. She makes her feel really comfortable. You can see bits and pieces of this interview, and she's just like, I'm so sorry. She really, really we're the gals, we're the girls. Let's sit here and chat.
Right.
And Kristin opens up, and Kristin says that she felt completely suffocated by Greg, and she did not like his constant clinginess. And so she's all, I didn't like him. I didn't like my husband. He was clingy. And then when she's talking about Dr. Michael Robertson, she lights up like a Roman candle on the 4th of July. She says he has all the qualities that I thought was lacking in my marriage. And she tells Detective Agnew that Greg killed himself because he was so totally in love with her, and he just couldn't take her loving another man. Now, she's saying all of this, but she has no idea what they have on her. She has no idea they have her DNA on the crack pipe, and that she's the one who has signed out all these drugs or taken all these drugs.
Right.
And Detective Agnew asks her about her drug use, and Kristin admits it. She says that she's relapsed over Greg's death. So it's not until after Greg has died that she relapses, and that she's working with a counselor on it. And Detective Agnew said, this chick, Kristin, she's super thin, and she keeps like crossing her legs, crisscross applesauce style in the chair. She can't sit still. So while she's being, quote, invited to interview, she's in this interrogation room, and Kristin, she's tweaking or whatever it's called. She can't sit still.
Sure.
And Detective Agnew's like, this chick is strung out.
Yeah.
So when Detective Agnew asks about the rose petals, Kristin says it was an ode to her favorite movie. She said the flowers were from her birthday, and most of them had died, but 4 of them had survived, and he must have used one of those. She got 24 roses for her birthday, and there were 4 still thriving, and the others had died, and she thinks that he was using one of those. But here's the problem. The rose petals on the ground were fresh and not 10 days old like her birthday. And Detective Agnew believes she bought a fresh rose just for the murder.
Wow.
Now, Kristin's father, who of course is a very high-powered guy, worked in the Reagan administration, he comes in and says, look, Greg seemed deeply distressed, and he drank a lot of wine, and he drank a lot of gin really heavily. And then later in a TV interview, Kristin stated that Greg made a big deal out of the last standing rose from the bouquet he gave her for her birthday. And Kristin said he was making a statement that he knew the relationship was over. Like everything's dead. There's just this like one tiny piece of hope. There's one rose. There's one little bit of hope. And police are like, well, we'll see about that.
Yeah.
They confiscate 17 computers, including Michael Robertson's laptop. And what they find is all of this communication between the parties on a work computer. They discover through emails that Greg, her husband, is really passionate about 2 things. He's passionate about his wife, and he's passionate about his job at his biotech company. And Kristin, from all these exchanges, Kristin's really passionate about her boss. So there's a whole slew of messages between Kristin and Michael where they talk about being soulmates and they're destined for each other. And you know what? That may well have been the case. But you don't have to kill somebody to reach your destiny.
Yeah.
But when the shit really starts hitting the fan, Dr. Dreamy from Australia, he's slowly backing out of the room.
You think?
Just one little step at a time.
Yeah.
And what they do find is 36 documents on fentanyl. Because Kristin and Michael did this conference together, and they find all these papers from a conference all about fentanyl. These 2 toxicologists go to a convention, and they have all these papers just on fentanyl. And the cops are like, whoa, Kristin and Dr. Dreamy, Dr. Michael, they did this conference together where they shared a room for an entire week in Milwaukee. They go to this session within the conference. It's all about how fentanyl shows up in overdoses and in suicide cases. And they go to this as 2 colleagues in Milwaukee for a week to a toxicology conference, and they brazenly share a room. They didn't even get 2 rooms and pretend. They didn't even try.
Yeah.
They didn't even fake it. But it is a little hinky that they're specifically looking at fentanyl and suicides.
Yeah, exactly.
So for a bunch of smart people, they're not doing very well. They're not planning the perfect murder.
Yep.
Everybody who's ever been to a conference, how they have all these like breakout sessions,
Sure.
right?
Yeah.
So they go into this one about how fentanyl shows up in overdoses and suicide cases. They're unintentional deaths with fentanyl at a toxicology conference. So there's lots and lots of circumstantial evidence, but it is enough to arrest Kristin.
Okay.
Now, Michael Robertson isn't charged, And he says, see ya. I'm getting the heck fire out of here. And he hops on a plane and goes back to Australia.
Wow.
On a side note, his wife divorces him.
Surprise.
Kristin Rossum is arrested and her bail is set at $1.25 million.
Wow.
She's a flight risk.
Right.
She sits in jail for 6 months at the Las Colinas Detention Center before she's released on bond. Her parents mortgage their house. Now, remember her dad, he's a constitutional attorney, and her mother's a master marketing and public relations person.
Right.
So Kristin gives these press conferences where she professes her innocence. She's got her hair in a ponytail. She's got on her pearls. It's all just a huge misunderstanding. And 6 months of her life have been taken from her. And here's how she says it went down. She says that on Monday morning, November 6th, she calls Greg's place of work and says he's not coming in. Now, remember when I say it's important that he never missed a day of work, right?
Right.
Even if he felt horrible, he dragged himself in. He just didn't miss work at all. So
Right.
his boss is worried.
Right.
Stefan Grunwald, the German guy, is worried about Greg. So Stefan, he rings their apartment. He calls them, and there's no answer. And then he calls their apartment at like 10 a.m., okay? They have records of this.
Okay.
And then Kristin says that Greg was in bed all day. The telephone, you can see the pictures of their room, of their bedroom. The telephone's literally inches from Greg's head in the bed, okay?
Mm-hmm.
Stefan calls all day. He calls at 10. He calls at noon. He calls at 1. He makes all these phone calls throughout the day. At 11:30, Kristin says that she's with him and says that he's awake and he's gotten up and he's walked around a little bit. Now remember, Stefan says he called at noon.
Right.
And they do have these phone records. She's told the police that she was there at 11:30. It's just not all adding up. And in the meantime, you know, she's called his place of work that morning and said he's not coming.
Yeah, right.
So his boss is really, really worried. And Kristin says that Greg tells her that he took some old prescriptions that he had taken from her that he hadn't thrown away. He took them. That's how she puts the drugs in his possession. She says, he took them away from me. He told me he threw them away, but he kept them. And then he confessed to me that morning, I took these drugs. So what happens in reality is that Kristin drugs him. She puts him into a coma, but they don't know how the fentanyl got into his system, and he had enough to kill a couple dozen people.
Right.
But Kristin stays with her story that Greg has done all of this to himself, even the fentanyl. She says that she leaves him a note and goes shopping. And then she's home around 8:30 and he's still asleep. She takes that long bath and then she climbs into bed, and that's when she notices that Greg is cold. He has a cold body. So none of it's adding up. Police listen to the 911 calls and she tells them that he's in bed and they say to get him to the floor to do CPR. And on the tape, you're supposed to be hearing her give CPR, but the paramedics find her alone and not by his side. And they say that she never did CPR on him because they didn't find any evidence on his chest, no redness from giving the compressions.
Right.
And if you know anything about giving CPR, you know when you do it, there's a really good chance you're going to crack some ribs.
Right, right.
Especially if you don't know what you're doing. Actually, the statistic is about 30% of people who survive CPR, they wake up with a cracked sternum or a broken rib.
Wow.
Yeah. And he's got zero redness on his chest. So no evidence at all of trying to give compressions. And they realize that, you know, the paramedics get there. He's been dead for a while. He's got lividity, which means that he's blue and purple from where the blood is pooling beneath
Sure.
his body.
Right.
He's been dead for quite a while when she calls 911. So the rose petals. She says that when she pulled back the covers and he wasn't breathing, there were those rose petals surrounding him in the bed. So it would stand to reason that if he was there all day and he's covered himself in these roses, there would still be roses in the bed when she pulls him to the floor to do CPR, right?
Right.
There are no rose petals in the bed. They're all around his body, on the floor. She has staged the whole scene clearly.
Man.
She fills her diary, the same diary, by his head with all the words of, I've made a mistake marrying Greg, with letters to her dead husband starting the day after his death. And when she's questioned about it, she says it would be horrible and disgusting to kill her husband. She could never. I mean, Kristin, we agree with you on that one.
Yeah. Yeah.
It is horrible
Yep.
and disgusting to kill your husband.
Yeah, in the least.
So even though she's horrible and disgusting, she didn't do a very good job. Yeah, no. The prosecution doesn't believe her, but they don't have this so-called smoking gun. So they've got to convince a jury beyond a reasonable doubt who she really is, right?
Right.
So one piece of damning evidence that came into play, one tiny slip-up on her part, is when Kristin is arrested, she has in her wallet a Vons club card. Now, this is a grocery store, like a customer loyalty card.
Okay.
You know, it tracks what you buy, gives you coupons and discounts.
Sure.
We do this all the time.
Yep.
On the day that Greg dies, Kristin goes to Vons and she buys a couple of things. She pays cash for her can of chicken noodle soup and some cold medication. But she also purchases a single rose. And she's using cash thinking nobody's going to be able to track me because I'm using cash. Well, guess what? You used your Vons card to get your discount, and it tracks everything you buy.
What an idiot.
Fresh petals for the suicide.
Yeah.
Still circumstantial, though, right?
Mm-hmm.
October of 2002, she's going to trial. She's really playing up to the media. She arrives in court in her parents' Mercedes. It's like a red carpet event. She's got on the pearls, the conservative outfit. She's very beautiful. She's very disarming. And it's like, how could this gorgeous woman with the big eyes and the sweet face, how could she be a killer? Which is exactly what the defense wants.
Well, and her mom's a marketing maven.
Exactly. So the trial begins, and the prosecution wants to make damn sure the jury sees Kristin in her true light and not the media marketing blitz that her parents have set up for her. Mm-hmm. So they use her mugshot, her meth-fueled, drug-addicted face of a mugshot in the courtroom. They blow it up. They leave it out. They want to show the jury exactly who she is, not the perfectly manicured woman behind the table with her defense attorney.
Right.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And that picture, it's a far cry from what she looks like in court.
I'm sure.
So the defense is that Greg committed suicide, of course, but how did he do it with the fentanyl? It's either injected or given in a patch. So how did Greg accomplish this? You know, his own death. How did he do this to himself? And experts say an injection would knock him out immediately. He'd still have the needle in his arm. And the patch, well, they never found one on his body, and there was no evidence that there ever was one on his body.
Right.
So Kristin's defense team says, well, he drank it from a glass by the bedside, a glass that was never tested for anything. And the prosecution comes back and says, well, Greg had needle marks from the shots administered by the paramedics. But guess what? The paramedics say, well, there was an extra needle mark when we got there. We didn't do that.
Wow.
And that's where they're saying Kristin injected her husband with the fentanyl. Because if he had done it to himself, the needle would still be there. He wouldn't have been able to like shoot himself up and then take it out or dispose of it.
Right.
So it takes 1 month, 30 days, 50 witnesses, including Kristin, who took the stand on her own behalf. But after this month and 50 witnesses, it takes the jury 7.5 hours to find Kristin Rossum guilty of Greg's murder.
Wow.
And the verdict is handed down on what would have been Greg's 29th birthday. Now, as for Dr. Robertson, who vamoosed off to Australia, they have called him an unindicted co-conspirator.
Right.
And the police say the investigation against him is ongoing. But that's all they will say. I think he's back in Australia. I don't think it would be smart to come to the United States, even if you want to see the World Cup.
So they can't extradite him back to the United States.
He's an unindicted co-conspirator.
Gotcha. Okay.
Kristin is sent to prison. She's serving life without the possibility of parole at the Central California Women's Facility in Chowchilla. Sorry, that's a mouthful. It's the largest women's correctional facility in the United States. So she's sitting there, life without parole.
Wow.
Now, the de Villers family, they sued Kristin in civil court for wrongful death, And Kristin was ordered to pay more than $100 million in punitive damages.
Wow.
And San Diego, the family sues San Diego because she was in the San Diego medical examiner's office.
Yeah.
They had to pay $1.5 million.
Jeez.
Now, I don't think the $100 million has been paid out. I just don't think that that's happened. It was the most ever assessed against an individual defendant in California history.
Right.
And the family's probably never going to see that money.
Right.
But here's what they wanted to make sure of was that Kristin couldn't profit from her crime via a book deal or a movie deal, right?
Sure.
And the family originally asked for $50 million. But the jurors awarded double that.
Wow.
$100 million.
Man.
Yeah. And they estimated that Kristin could have made at least $60 million from selling the rights to her story. So a judge later reduced it to $10 million, but they allowed this $4.5 compensatory award to stand. That was, yeah. So I think they got a little bit, but not a whole lot.
Okay. Well, any kind of money doesn't replace their son.
It'll never replace their son, who was so kind and so good to everyone, including the woman who killed him.
Yeah.
Now, Kristin did appeal over and over again. She lost her last appeal 20 years ago in 2006. Now, I went to Reddit just because I wanted to see what people had to say about this. I love knowing what people think. So there's a Reddit thread where someone claimed that Kristin was, of course, she's in jail, and that she was still doing drugs in jail, and she had a lover in jail, another female prisoner. As of 2026, prior appellate efforts and petitions for a new trial or additional testing of evidence have not resulted in her conviction being overturned, and there are no new reports indicating a successful new appeal. So she sits there for the rest of her life.
Good.
But that is the story of Kristin Rossum, the American Beauty, and that's all I have to say about that.
Okay, my take on this whole thing is that these two weren't very bright. Especially the doctor. I mean, come on, how arrogant and narcissistic can you be just to be that flamboyant with an affair and knowing that she was a drug addict? And I mean,
I think maybe he got involved with her before he knew she was a drug addict.
You think?
And he was so involved. He was very entangled.
Yeah.
In that entanglement. He was very entangled in that whole thing. But I still don't get the whole just brazenly being open at the office, too.
Yeah. Well, the second thing that really blows me away is the fact that she set up this scene with her husband being dead, but she left her diary there and all this evidence that she was having an affair, knowing that the Dr. Dreamy, or Dr. what'd you call him?
Robertson is his name.
Yeah, but you called him something else.
Dr. Thor.
Dr. Thor, there you go. The fact that he's going to lose his job.
Well, he doesn't know what's in that, and if he killed himself, he's not going to lose his job. No one's going to lose their job unless they're caught.
Yeah.
She puts out the diary to show that he had reason to kill himself because she was no longer in love with him.
But it was just stupid because they're going to use that evidence against her with her job and his job.
Yeah, but nobody's going to jail for having an affair.
Yeah. Wow.
Nobody's going to jail for that.
Well,
she thought it was all going to work in her favor to show all of those things, that's why he was in that state of depression, because she had told him she didn't love him anymore, and here's all the evidence that she didn't love him anymore.
I think the bottom line is that if you're a meth head, you don't think very clearly. What do you think?
Probably not. Probably. But you know what? She could have just divorced him.
Yeah.
Divorce him, go off and smoke your kneecaps off, sister, whatever you're going to do. He tried to save you.
Yeah.
And I'm sure that's the way his family feels as well. And now we're just one less wonderful person. There's just one less wonderful person in the world.
Yeah, just go live under a bridge somewhere.
Well, or in prison.
Or in prison. There you go. All right. Well, let's leave her way behind and go to a little Bless Your Heart.
Well, bless your heart.
All right, number one, I'm calling, sorry, wrong number.
Okay.
Octavia Wells, 41, had been headed to rehab on New Year's Eve when she texted a man she'd previously entered in her phone as PJ, allegedly offering to pay $45 for an opioid. All right.
Okay.
This was according to the Bay County Sheriff's Office, which I believe is in Florida.
Bay County? Is that not in California?
No, I don't know. I thought it was in Florida.
I don't know.
We'll see. The dim-witted druggie then arranged to meet the guy on the other line at Tom Thumb convenience store in Panama City.
Oh, it is Florida.
Yeah, according to a police report obtained by the smoking gun.
Tom Tom?
The Tom Tom. No, Tom Thumb.
Tom Thumb.
Yes.
I thought you called it the Tom Tom convenience store.
No, I called it the Tom Thumb.
Okay, sorry.
That's all right.
I'm with you now.
Okay.
We're at the Tom Thumb, not the Tom Tom.
Yeah, but when she arrived at the Tom Thumb, when she arrived at the store, narcotic cops were waiting there to arrest her, police said, because the tech-challenged Florida woman accidentally texted a cop instead of her drug dealer to buy fentanyl, unwittingly narking on herself, according to police who arrested her.
Bless her heart.
I know, stupid. All right, number 2.
Number 2.
Do I have to spell it out for you?
Yes.
Okay. A Colorado man is wanted for allegedly attempting to hold up a bank in a robbery that quickly went off the rails when the teller couldn't read the note he handed over. The accused would-be thief entered a bank in Loveland, Colorado around 5 p.m. on December 17th and went straight to the teller, who he handed a note, according to the Loveland Police Department. But the teller couldn't discern what exactly was written on the note, since it was nearly impossible to read, according to CBS Colorado. As the teller was still trying to figure out what the note said, the man grew frustrated and quickly fled the bank, police said.
Oh, my gosh.
Yeah, the suspect was wearing a brown hoodie, a green baseball cap, and sunglasses. The LPD are still searching for him. And to top it off, his face was not covered during the entire incident.
But they're still looking for him?
I guess.
I wonder how old he was. You know, they don't teach cursive anymore.
Well, I saw the picture. He looked like he was probably in his late 40s.
Oh, so it probably was in cursive, and she was probably in her 20s, and she couldn't read it.
That's true.
Because it's like hieroglyphics, I think, to young people when we write in cursive.
Excuse me, is this Egyptian? All right, number 3, and finally.
Finally.
Dear Diary, I'm totally going to jail today. A Minnesota delivery driver was busted for auto theft because she wrote in her diary that she, quote, totally stole a car today, unquote, according to police.
I totally stole a car today.
Yeah. Vanessa Guerra, 30, of Mankato, I believe is in Minnesota.
Mankato.
Mankato. Mankato,
Minnesota.
I say Mankato, you say Mankato. Penned the brain-dead confessional on August 12th, the same day a van was swiped and resold for parts nearby, according to a criminal complaint filed on November 22nd.
She stole a van?
Yep.
Steal a Ferrari. Steal something better than a van. Okay, sorry. Keep going.
During the investigation, an officer allegedly found Guerra's journal, which blabs about the vehicle's heist in a tone fit for a ladies' brunch. Quote, totally stole a car today, something I thought I would never do. Guerra allegedly wrote in the entry, according to the Brown County Sheriff's Office. Effing super freaking out about it, unquote. Guerra, who recently worked as a DoorDash driver, allegedly stole the 2004 Ford Freestar van and sold it for $2,000 at a scrap at a salvage business in Blue Earth County, according to the Smoking Gun.
She sold it to a chop shop.
Yeah, she did. All right. Workers at the auto salvage business told cops they recognized Guerra as the person who sold them the stolen ride, according to police. When contacted by an investigator, Guerra denied knowing that the vehicle was stolen, according to the Mankato Free Press. She was arrested and charged.
How about you were going to say they recognized her as the woman who delivered their Five Guys.
Yeah, exactly.
Their DoorDash,
in
not
that
the
van.
car. Yeah, in that van.
And she left it.
Yeah. Bless her heart.
Yeah, so there's your stupid criminals.
Well, if you have a bless your heart or you know somebody's heart who needs blessing, all you got to do is go to hitchtohomicide.com. When you get there, you'll find a pull-down menu, and while you're there, you can also suggest a case or tell us about your brush with true crime. That's my amazing husband out there.
And that's my beautiful bride in the booth.
Join us next time on Hitch to Homicide.
Bye, y'all.